All right, so this is the third episode of the Eccentric Moment, and today we have Bob, who is one of the most passionate automotive retail executives that I know. Bob began his career as a sales executive on a floor at a dealership, and trust me, this is going to be one hell of a session. Bob, nice to have you here.
Man, it is awesome to be here. I'm really appreciative to be here, and I am excited about what we're going to talk about. This is my passion.
Lovely, lovely. So, Bob, I know how your tryst with the automotive industry began, but I would love our viewers to also know about it. A really interesting story. But Bob, over to you.
Yeah, so I did start on the showroom floor as a commission-only salesperson. Still to this day, the best and worst experiences I've ever had, and I say that genuinely because I'll tell you, if I ever owned my own business and I needed a sales team, I would have them go sell cars for a few months before they came back to me, because it truly was the most impactful professional time of my life. And in full disclosure, I was dating a woman in college whose parents owned the store. So they brought me down as we were dating pretty seriously to learn the business. And I did many facets of the store, but I give them a lot of credit because they truly did treat me like anyone else. I was commission only. I did not get any favorability over anyone else. So, like I said, I did start, I guess you could say at the ground zero of the store, and it was the best experience of my professional career.
I'm quite sure it was. And, that's the thing about these beginnings, that some of the most profound stories actually begin by chance. But I'm sure that you'd not have imagined that you would get into the automotive industry had it not been the girl that you were dating back then. And I think, in your hindsight, I think that's probably one of the examples of being in the right place at the right time.
I'll tell you, first of all, not only getting into automotive retail, right? Because in the 90s, right, people who sold cars were usually those that couldn't do anything else, right? Like people that sold cars were like, oh, this is the only thing they can do because they can't do anything else. But some of the smartest people, easily some of the smartest people I've ever been around, were within the dealership. I mean, you want to talk about people who are the most street smart people there are, people that value life. And when you're commission only, right, your survival is selling cars or F&I products or whatever. Like, so you have to become good at it or you don't survive. So like I said, I'll take luck over skill any day of the week. My dad used to say that to me, and I was very fortunate to date Christy in college and then work for her parents after college, because Varun, like, this is the mid 90s when the internet was just coming into the industry. So I got to be a part of the internet affecting our industry from day one.
And it's such an ironical thing that if it's that one purchase that you would always associate with doing it in person, doing just that authentic experience of driving a car, is what you associate a true auto executive to feel like, versus someone today who is at the forefront of digital transformation in the automotive industry. It's been quite a ride. So my question here is that if Bob from the mid 90s would see how a car is sold online today, how would he feel about it?
I'd be disappointed. And I'll tell you why. Technology can be a fantastic enabler when utilized correctly. It also can be a hindrance, right, when utilized incorrectly. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? The tech is there, just for the record. The tech is there for it to be used correctly and to provide that new age, car buying process. Where it fails, Varun, is when we use old school tactics with new age products. And the new age products have created an expectation from the new age buyers, which are the younger generations who have grown up with technology, when we don't fulfill the expectation that I think they believe we should. And, you know, like I said, the technology is there to enable the experience that I think we're getting to. I don't want to be super negative. We're working towards it. But I think I would be a little disappointed if in the 90s I fast forward to 2023 and the same tactics we had in the 90s are being used in 2023.
I can't agree more with you because, you know, as someone who is again building tech for the space, um, our aspiration here is to really build things which just feel natural.
Right.
Of course, we could not really get to a point where we can give the whole of that experience. But hey, I do completely understand that there's this so much for us to fix today as we speak. And my question is, Bob, um, are we doing enough to really fix these issues? Um, and do you think that it's taken longer than what it possibly could have? Considering the kind of minds that we have working on these problems.
It's definitely taken longer, but that's not to the fault of the retailer or the OEM. Like, who would have predicted a pandemic, right? A
Yes.
worldwide pandemic, right? Which then, right, the ripple effect is lack of inventory because of the parts to be able to assemble the car. So, inflation, wars, like there's a lot of things you just can't predict that do have caused the delays. Where I am really passionate, and I really appreciate your introduction of me, because there is no better industry. There's no other industry I would rather work in than automotive retail. I want to retire from this industry. I just love it greatly. I hope I can leave the industry in a better place, than it was. And I played a tiny little bit of role of that. But we do have to shift our minds as an auto retailer that those tactics that we grew up with, that maybe we're still being trained on, are actually causing the opposite effect of what we're looking to actually accomplish, which is to sell more cars at a higher gross, at the highest gross or profitability that we can. And this concept, I'll give you one concept and we can go from there, right? The concept of the dealer controlling the sale. When I started selling, that's how it was. You controlled the sale as the salesperson, right? We told the dealer how we were going to work. We created the negotiation and how we wanted to do it. Like, we own the sale. But if we can flip the mindset to say, hey, let's use technology to put the sale in the hands of the buyer, let them feel as if they're in control. That's when we're going to see a better sales process, and most importantly, higher gross. It's just taking longer to get retailers to understand that.
So true, so true. And I think one of these things, at least from our worldview, that we are able to see today is uh, one thing which is there, that just the word digital has probably given a fake mask and just got us to overthink it till a certain extent. Because enter digital, everyone starts thinking that they got to act differently. You're suddenly thinking tools, you're suddenly thinking platforms, you're suddenly thinking a lot of software. And what's that one most important thing that you've forgotten about is the buyer.
Amen. The buyer and the process, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think so. There was a CEO at Ford Motor Company in the
Mhm.
late 90s by the name of Jack Nasser. Jack Nasser was very progressive for the late 90s. He wanted to sell cars on this thing called the internet. And he actually created or the he pushed the dealers to create a company called FordDirect.com. That was
Yeah.
the name.com, right? And they actually got really close to being able to sell a car, or I had actually heard they could sell cars online, but they didn't. They kind of like halted that process. And I bring that up because I think there's this fear that technology is going to replace what I do, or technology isn't going to help me, when it's actually the opposite, right? It's, you have to have there's this saying, it's platforms, people, and process, and you have to have all three for it to work. You can't have just the platform, right? Because then you don't have the process behind it, right? And you need people to design the process and the platform. So again, going back to what I said earlier, if we would just shift our minds and embrace technology to be used how the buyer wants to use it, and put them in control, be more transparent, give them more information, the trust that we'll earn will be repaid to us in the gross of the car. I can assure you that.
On that note, right? So just speaking about the fact that that we have to put the buyer, where they belong, which is, essentially they are that one single most important, not just a component, but they are the reason why we're all here. And we spoke about trust. The fact that trust is something which needs a lot of thoughtfulness, it needs a lot of imagination. And it's just about these small little nuances. So think of it when you enter a dealership. I agree with you when you said that some of the smartest people who I know worked at a car dealership. Uh,
Easily.
easily, right? Because I still remember the guy who sold me my first car. I have his number on my just on my phone dial. He still keeps sending me messages when it comes to how I'm doing. He knows what my birthday is, and I think a lot of sales executives are natural, right? And while we speak about the buyer, it's also important for us to remember that the person who is doing that, who is actually selling, knows what they want. And if you just simplify the job that we have, is just to make sure that we are able to have the right connect without really disturbing the seller too much. And while we speak about the trust with the buyer, the trust with the seller, for them to believe that you're enabling them and not displacing them, becomes so much more important. And I just believe that one thing that we have seen is that, unfortunately, a lot of companies just see the seller as a subscriber, as a license, as just yet another, a revenue center that I have. Uh, what is your advice to companies who really create for automotive? How do we get that passion ingrained into these products?
Yeah, two things. Okay, first and foremost, one of the biggest challenges we have in the industry, and I keep talking about that mindset, right? Shifting that mindset. But the biggest challenge we have is perception versus reality. All the studies that I have seen in the past year, guys, is the dealer believes they are doing better digitally and transparently and throughout the process of the car sale than what the buyers are telling them they really are, right? They'll say, hey, I know that, 80% of dealers will say, I have one of the best digitized experiences. But yet, in reality, only 30% of dealers are saying that. So we
Yes.
have this gap between retailers believing, I think they're better than they are. But I want to go back to what you said in the sense of, I use this as an example all the time, right? I'll ask dealers when I'm in the room with them, guys, what is the most important aspect of the car sale? Like, what do you all believe is the most important aspect? Because you use the word trust, right? Like, our goal as salespeople is to earn trust, right? So we can sell them what usually is their second most expensive product that they'll ever buy, right? Their home, their car, and then whatever else. So I'll ask them, what is the most important aspect of the car sale do you all believe? And without fail, someone will instantly say the meet and greet, right? The meet and greet is that first interaction with a buyer who you've never met. Okay. So when I was selling cars, we used to get trained on the meet and greet. We had to memorize a script, 9 of them exact. And then when they walked into the store, we used one of those 9 because you have 3 seconds to earn trust. It's your first interaction. We have 3. But where does that meet and greet happen now?
Mm-hmm.
Online,
Mhm.
right?
Online.
Online is your largest. It is your showroom. It's the showroom that has the most eyeballs. So when someone is spending between 15 and 20 hours, right, researching what they want to buy, why would your first interaction, right, via messaging, or why would your first interaction be a lead form? Why would your first interaction be like, "Hi, thanks for being on our dealership's website. Can I have your name, number, email address, and are you buying from me today?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, how about just hi? How can I
Yeah.
help you? How can I help you navigate my website? Do you have any questions on the car? Because the meet and greet online is no different than the meet and greet in store. And that is a perfect example where tech is enabling the right process, but the right process isn't being utilized.
And I think that just builds a really strong case for a lot of people who have worked at dealerships to now be associated with tech, because look, you can have the best tech guys in the world to build a software, but they just will not get the kind of nuances that we speak about right now. A lot of these things may appear very obvious and may sound very obvious, but they are not. I mean, we can say that because we are building some of these, and trust me, these are not. There's a lot of science that goes behind it. There's just so much to, unpack and then implement and then test, and hence, yeah, it's just so fascinating to build in this space, because what you're looking to do is that you're looking to take one of the most trusted relationships, which is the second most important investment that you're going to make in your life, and you're looking to really make a digital representation of that. Not easy.
Varun, let's talk about what you guys do for a second, right? So there's this saying, if you talk to an older school dealer here in the United States, many of them will say the car is the star. And they're not wrong, right? Like, people are selecting a particular brand and or a particular model because that's what they want to associate their personal brand with, right? Like, people drive Audis for a specific reason, or Tatas for a specific reason, or Jaguars. Like, people buy those cars because they want to take their personal brand and associate it with that car that they're driving. Like, that's just how it works. So let's talk about for a second the role you play in merchandising the car, right? Which, if the car is the star, why would you not want to ensure that your largest showroom, which is your digital showroom, doesn't have the best technology to ensure that that car is rendered and delivered in a way that it is the star? Like, I have to buy that. That's the car I want, right? And then what follows that is, how does that person get to then engage with that dealership? So I bring that up because we call it vehicle merchandising, at least here in the US. I'm sure you probably all have similar terms. Like, it is the usually the first interaction that someone has with the store. It's digital. You don't know who they are yet, but they're looking at your inventory. They're deciding, yep, that might be the, like, why would you want to put a static picture or a picture with a terrible background, right? Or it's turned the wrong way. Like, merchandise the car and then design a process to use the tech to engage with the person who's interested in buying that car.
No, so true. In fact, our inspiration, Bob, is essentially to give as much lifelike experience that we can, with the virtual representation of the car. And it's just about being good at what you can. And I think one thing that we do is that we look to make cars look really authentic. But it's just so important for us to follow it up with conversations which are so authentic, right? And that's precisely where what you guys are doing at Car Now just becomes so invaluable. Because look, this is one, I would say, observation or just frustration that we have. Imagine there's someone who is exploring the entire merchandise, the entire range of cars, looking at every single trim, carefully making a decision. It's almost like that they're living your product. All you got to do is just tell them, hey, uh, this is how you get your hands onto my car. That's about it. With some empathy, saying that, hey, nice choice. This is nice. This is good. So that even they feel good about themselves. And that we see is just so lacking around the world. It's almost as if you invite people to check out your 3D merchandise. They spend a lot of time doing that. And then it's almost as if the buyers feel as if they're not required anymore. So yeah, we spoke about authenticity of displaying the car, but it's just so important to also extend that authenticity when it comes to messaging, and hence the kind of work that you are doing right now takes a new level of meaning altogether. So, how are you guys, looking at this space, and how do you strive to make your conversations as authentic as possible?
Yeah, first and foremost, Varun, we want the dealer to handle every conversation. Like, this is that perfect example of, we're enabling the right tech, the modern tech, the tech that consumers want to use, right? We're enabling it, but the process behind it's not working, because we continue to push dealers to manage the chat themselves. And we have, and I'll give you a story in a second, we have many dealers that do, but then many who will outsource that chat conversation to a third party, a third party BDC, with the sole purpose of just trying to get a lead. Like, it's completely counterintuitive, right? Someone is on your website, they're very interested in a vehicle that's going to make you money, and you want to send that conversation to somebody else that doesn't even work for your dealership. Like, that doesn't make sense. You'd want to handle everything, every single conversation, because that's the meet and greet.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that's the meet and greet. Why would you not want to handle it? I'm going to give you an example. Lynn Hudson works for a dealer group here in the US called Morgan Automotive Group. They own a number of stores down in Florida and throughout the East Coast. And she managed a BDC where her sole job was to get paid to put leads in the system, right? So she truthfully utilized the third-party BDC that's pretty good at putting leads in the system. But, like, think about it. Chat gets turned into a lead that then gets emailed. So the customer wanted to chat with you, and then you're asking them to leave chat and go to email hours later. Like that doesn't even. So anyway, her dealer principal comes back from a meeting. I truly hope it was one of mine, but I cannot say it was. But comes back and says, Lynn, we're going to start handling every conversation now. Okay. So any conversation, Varun, not only did her leads go up, and that's okay. I don't really care about lead count. I really don't, because quality is most important. Forget about they did increase, but nonetheless, forget about that. You want to know what dramatically changed when her people started handling the conversations? Close rate doubled, gross doubled, or the profitability of the car doubled. You created a connection. The person knew they were working with someone at the store, right?
Yes.
That emotional connection was had. Next thing you know, I'll close with this. Guys, whoever's listening, you can do a search for this, right? People are willing to pay more for convenience. People are willing to pay more for convenience. So if you use tech to enable that convenience, they will pay more because time is money.
Can't agree more. I can't agree more. Let me, since we spoke about BDC, let me speak about Concierge, which is an extension of our platform, which just allows you to, seamlessly connect over a 3D bubble within it's the agent. We simulate a showroom-like experience right there, and it's the education that we need to get down to, educating the seller, saying that, look, this is your customer on the other line. Please speak with them. They aren't just a lead, they are customers, they are buyers. And I think, it has to be a story of convergence where we have more and more buyers who are comfortable with tools like these, so that the sellers get the confidence that, hey, these are buyers and these aren't just leads. Because I think just a point of consideration for a seller, they have been flooded with a lot of these leads over the last many years, so they are very, but wherever we see that a concierge call just closed within a minute of the intent, in 80% of cases we see the buyer walking into that showroom within 48 hours of that conversation. 48 hours.
And you know why? Because they built an emotional connection
They
with
have.
someone from the store prior to them walking into the store. Like that's where when I was talking about the mindset, right? It's getting the retailers who, I get it. They were trained for years and decades a certain way. It's getting them to switch their mindset to say, man, if I can create that emotional connection prior to them walking into the store, I'm going to see it different. We're proving it out here in the US. You're proving out. Why would you not want to instantly talk to someone who at the moment is passionately looking at your product? Like they are highly interested. They are emotionally connected. Why would you not want to talk to them right away? Why would you say, well, hold on, fill out this form and somebody will get back to you whenever? Makes no sense. That's not even how, like, behavior, like, it's mindset. Think about the mindset.
So true. So true. And and think about, that's the thing, that the best ideas, like having a great conversation platform about concierge and everything else, is just that things which just seem so obvious um, are just so difficult to build. They are so hard to build. And it's almost like that moment where you say, oh my God, I mean, why did I think of this before?
Well, you've built the platform. I mean, I'm really fond of your platform, and I would love to find a way to work together to emulate it here in the US. Like you've got this merchandising technology, which makes the car the star. And then you have this, with a click of a button, this instant connection for that person that you don't know who they are while they're researching your vehicle, to instantly get to know who they are with a click of a button, and that concierge stores. So what I would actually say, the technology is there. It's the process or the belief behind what the technology can provide. It's that mindset of the owner or the general manager or whatever it is to say, I'm going to give up control of the sale. That's really what this all comes down to, is that giving up of the control of the sale. And I promise you, you give it up, you will sell more, or at the very least, at the very worst, you're going to make more make more per car.
So true, so true, so true, so true. And to actually think of it, where all these things need to come together: merchandising, concierge, messaging. And that's essentially where we are looking at whole seamless, boundaryless approach to really democratize what the possibilities are. I think it's high time that a lot of people like us who are really uh, not just passionate, but have a very, very high sense of belief about the fact that car buying can be digital and can be emotional. Just draw a lot of these meaningful partnerships so we get to a point where we actually make it happen.
Vern, I'll just tell you this very quick story. A gentleman I used to work with, okay, I sat right next to him for about 6 years. Okay, great guy. He's one of my very good friends. And he bought a specific car. And I'm not going to tell you, it doesn't matter, but he bought a specific car because, and this car you could buy solely online. Literally click, 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 click. 2 weeks later, the car got delivered. And I asked him, I said, why did you get that particular car? He goes, I actually wanted a different car. Okay. He's like, I started working with the dealer, and I got so frustrated with working with the dealer. I just went to this website and I bought it on an impulse. He's like, and I absolutely love it. He's like, I don't know if I'll ever switch. And he's younger, he's a millennial. And I was sitting there listening to him while he was telling me this. And I'm like, that's like, we are giving customers away because of our process, and the technology is there to avoid that. So,
Like we say in the startup world, uh, it's great to have a process. But let's say, I think it's fair to say that we are still in a very, very nascent stage of this revolution. Um, and I think I do agree with you that currently we are not at the point where we need to build processes. We are at the point where we need to break the walls. We are at the point where we need to collaborate, we need to experiment and see what works best. And then build a process that really makes it all delightful for all of us. I believe that that is what you just meant to say, that sure, there will be a process, but first let's just get that emotion back into the process of car buying, or into the pleasure of car buying.
you got it. And listen, like, I will tell dealers, like, this isn't a completely new It's not as if we have to like reinvent this
Yes.
process that's going to take years. No, it's again giving up the control to let technology do more of the work, but have the process behind the technology to enable the technology to do what it does best, right? And be there when
Yeah.
the consumer or the buyer wants you to be there. And I so I always say, dealer, like, do not go back and try to reinvent your entire process for everybody. Take
Yes.
one or two salespeople,
Yes.
one or two salespeople.
Yes.
To your point, test, trial, learn, right? Adapt,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
go from there.
Can't agree more. Can't agree more. So on that point, Bob, just one last question. It's just to ask you. Having spent the last 3 decades or more in the automotive industry, what's been the eccentric moment for you? That one moment that just found that, hey, this just makes all the frustration all the possible challenges worth it for this one moment, what would that moment be for you?
I don't know if I have a specific moment, but I can tell you it goes back to what I said earlier, which I know you agreed with. It's the people, right? Like what's fun for me is when I get to stand up in front of a room or at a conference and present, the tech story, everything that we just talked about. And I know, right? Many in the room are not believers. They're like, no way, no way. The way I do it is the best. I'm the best operator there is, right? Because we're egotistical in the auto retail business. We're confident, which is great. I think that's what makes this industry so great. But what I get the best feeling on is when a dealer, principal, or GM will come up to me and be like, I'm going to try that. You challenged me, and I see why, and I'm going to give that a try. That happened to me this past Saturday. I was at a conference. I was presenting, and I said, "Listen, is anybody in the room going to try what I just suggested?" And like 3 dealers raised their hand, and I was like, "To me, that means everything." Because again, and I even said, "I don't care if you use my product or not. It's not about I don't sell. I
Yes,
educate. Whether you use
yes.
my product or not, can we please just create a better process for the consumer?" And that's the moment when I walk out. And again, I didn't make a dollar. I have no idea. Like I didn't make. We're doing the industry's in the right direction if people are willing, if dealers are willing to give new processes a try. So that's what I get jazzed up about.
And it's just so refreshing. I can almost see, your enthusiasm in this case, and I can completely imagine how your face would light up in mid 90s when you'd make a car sale or when you see a customer entering your dealership, and how you'd look forward to really making them feel at home when they came there. And the fact that you want to retain that same experience, but now, of course, you are dealing with dealers and the OEMs, which is a larger industry. So, what I can say is that this industry needs more Bobs.
I
We need
appreciate
people like you. And it's always been such a huge pleasure speaking with you because I know it can be extremely tiring. It can at times be frustrating. It can at times be negative because we are looking to really work against the conventional way of doing things. But I believe that all it takes is a group of people who have a common belief, who just increase that community of people, work together, make a clan out of it, and succeed together. And Bob, I'm so happy that we are in this together.
I couldn't have said it any better. So I'm really appreciative of you, your team. I'm extremely happy that we got to meet a couple years ago and then meet at NADA this past year. Look forward to next NADA, and everything you just said, I couldn't said it better. So I appreciate you and I appreciate your audience.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.